Update Reddit. Reddit, what's the most chaotic good thing you've ever seen? My former employer had metered parking lot. The lot was heavily monitored and they'd ticket like, the very minute your S expired. It was decidedly not good for business. People want to be able to linger at a coffee shop, you know? Besides, there was no reason for that lot to be metered anyhow. It was barely even adjacent to anything but our shop. Well, the meter just started breaking. All the time. It would get fixed by the city, but then a few days later it'd be smashed or jammed or whatever. We asked if people would be towed and the city was like, no meter, no ticket. One night I stayed a bit late to clean a freezer. When I left, I spotted my boss breaking the freshly fixed meter. She was like, yep. Guess I'm a criminal, eh? I once counseled one of the students in my homeroom to quit school, get a GED, and enroll in an apprenticeship program. Had I been caught, I would have been fired since policy was to try to motivate all students to graduate. Kid was failing all his classes, which were 9th grade courses, but he was smart, working a full-time job, was already 18 years old, and had a crappy home life. Honestly, that's the smartest path for a determined and hardworking kid who doesn't thrive in academia. Good for you. He probably makes good money and has a stable job now. This was back in the late 1950s when my granddad was just a teenager, 14 to 15, and he lived in a rural area in AS. This relatively new family in town was arousing suspicion because the wife and kids were always banged up. My grandpa's stepfather spoke to the man of the house and told him that people didn't like that he was abusing his family and he needed to stop. When he didn't stop, my grandpa's stepdad excused himself from dinner one night and left the house for the evening. The following day, on the way to school, my granddad was on the bus and drove across a field where Family Man McGee was tied to one of the posts, beat to holy hell. My granddad, the bus driver, and another older student helped untie the guy and get him onto the bus so that he could get back home. Nobody talked about it, but apparently my grandpa's stepdad and a couple other local men caught up to the guy and beat the S out of him so that he'd know how his defenseless family had it. On a crowded, slow-moving subway car full of angry commuters in Boston, these two women started arguing when one bumped into the other. A giant of a man stepped between the two and at the top of his lungs started belting out "Que sera sera" in his most faux operatic voice. It worked like a tranquilizer. I'd be genuinely pleased to see this next time I'm on the orange line. Guy at the local Dunkin' Donuts has to throw out donuts after someone tried to sue them for donating poisoned donuts or whatever. He gladly throws them out and then walks back inside. Whatever happens to them isn't any of his business since it's trash anyway. He says he stopped trying to catch the mysterious garbage thief after 30 seconds of trying because he isn't paid enough to care. My parents stole my neighbor's dog and rehomed it because they were mistreating it. My parents did this with a cat. The neighbor was throwing rocks at his cat because he didn't want her in the house. My dad confronted him, said, "F you, this is our cat now," and took her home. When I was still in my medical training in LA, I often saw a middle-aged gentleman putting coins into expired meters. The one time I saw a meter maid try to approach him and he ran off giggling. A few months later I saw him at a stop sign in a Maserati. Basically the definition of chaotic good. I've seen a grizzled old-ish guy pull a mother who hit her kid for crying out of her seat by the collar, and grumble at her how he'd show her how it feels to be hit for crying if she kept going. In the most disdainful tone I've ever heard in real life, he told her to sit back down, and dropped her in her seat. When the nice police people came, nobody had seen a thing. In my version of this that is playing in my head, I'm picturing Mike Ehrmantraut as the old man. I sometimes call apartment complexes that I know don't offer recycling service and I pretend to be interested in an apartment. Then I ask if they have recycling and back out once they say no. I do this to the same ones from different numbers over the course of a few months so they don't get suspicious. Sometimes I have friends call too. So far only one has added recycling, but I'm still working on the others. You're an inspiration. I could never willingly make a phone call. Some guy pulled into oncoming traffic to protect a biker who had just wiped out. I teach English as a foreign language to high schoolers. I have one class where the class clown is always trying to be disruptive, but his method is to shout encouragement whenever someone answers a question. Like, "You a genius," or "You so intelligent." I have to act annoyed because I know he'll stop doing it if he ever knew how much I love it. You should tell him this when he leaves your class. Friend's mother found out her husband, friend's father, was part of a child pornography group when the police showed up to arrest him. He'd realized they were about to get him, so was trying to escape the country via the local airport. He told her his mother was sick and he was going to visit. She not only told the police where he was, but raced them to him, tackled him at the airport before he disappeared, and was in the process of beating him to a pulp when the police arrived and pulled her off of him. That video where a guy paid for everyone's food if they were behind them just because two girls cut in front of him. I think it was In and Out. The video's been reposted many times on any social media. Friend of mine used to live in downtown Toronto. At one point she'd given a spare comforter to a homeless man to keep warm through our hellish winters. Fast forward a couple months and she's cutting through the park at night to get to her apartment. Some guy stops her, clearly with bad intentions. Looks grim. Comforter bro comes flying out of nowhere with comforter draped like a cape. Bad dude is scared shitless and runs. Comforter bro escorts friend through park to safety. Karma. I like putting coins in the treat machines at the local zoo's goat feeding station. It's fun to see the kids so excited and the parents pissed that they're forced to stop and let their kids feed the goats. Not super chaotic, but hey, $20 goes a long way. Me and a friend got some black spray paint, and went to an underpass near us that had a bunch of gang tags and profanities all over it. We covered as many as we could before the cops saw us. The cop was super chill, let us finish covering everything up, but forced us to give him the spray cans we had, and brought us home. He was chill enough to drop us off a little distance away from our houses so we didn't get seen by our parents or anything. Told us we have a great mindset, but needed to apply ourselves to more legal and beneficial things. Not a witness, but the perpetrator. I'd bought one of those suction cup things to pop a small dent out of my car. I didn't like the idea of buying something I'd only use once, so I started carrying it in my purse and popping any dents I'd see along the way between parking lots and stores. Guy who worked for me was caught by police in the middle of freeing 41 battery chickens. Don't know what he thought he was going to do with them once he had saved them. I think he might define this as CG, but I just found it hilarious. Had to provide him a character reference to keep him out of jail. My professor assigned us a presentation on memes for finals week and guaranteed us A's and B's so we weren't stressed from his class as well as others. Something I've seen. Guy 1 was watching Guy 2 scream loudly at his girlfriend who is just begging him to get in a taxi and go home. Guy 2 slaps girlfriend who half his size. Guy 1 steps up and knocks Guy 2 the F out. I don't usually approve of violence, but in this situation it was needed to stop escalating. Something I've done. Part of my job is to stop shoplifters. Occasionally I get the vibe that they are stealing necessities out of desperation rather than something to flip for drug money or whatever. I turn a blind eye and let them leave. When my children did laundry on Mother's Day and used half a bottle of Tide. When I was in summer camp at age 9, one kid had a bizarre fixation for brooms and sweeping. When another boy was assigned to sweeping the cabin floors, the weird broom kid flipped the F out and threatened to attack him if he didn't give him the broom so that he can clean the floor instead. Gotta sweep sweep sweep. Once I was driving in front of a car who went off-road multiple times and I could see was texting and driving. I assumed they were drunk because it was a bunch of college kids in a college town. So, when we pulled up to a stop sign, I tapped my brakes a little too hard and he bumped me. They all flipped their S. I told them it's not too bad and we would work it out. Offered them a ride home. I am convinced I saved their lives and whoever else they were going to hit that night. In my dorm we have old coin-operated laundry machines. I have a modified wire hanger that lets me run the machines without coins because I'm broke AF. I will sometimes activate all of the machines like they were fed quarters so other broke asses can wash and dry for free. Slamming shut someone's open gas tank door while riding my bike through stopped traffic. I tried to do it gently, but it was loud. I went back and apologized to the guy.